There's a lot of types of share terms flying about, and it can be confusing. The three key ones are issued, authorized, also known as outstanding, and fully diluted. First, let me explain the difference between these two terms, issued and outstanding. Authorized are the total number of shares which can be issued. It's written in your legal incorporation documents. Note, yes, you can increase the authorized shares in future, but you need board approval. Issued means the number of shares actually issued by the company to shareholders, or the ones you, the founders, have when you start. For example, your company may have authorized 10 million shares, which can be issued, but only issued 6 million of them, meaning there's another 4 million shares that are authorized to be issued at a later time. So if you and your co-founder own 50% each, you've each issued 3 million shares each out of the total authorized pool of 10 million. Outstanding options, the ones in your ESOP or given to advisors, are not counted because they only represent a right to purchase shares in the future when they are exercised. Until that happens, they're not issued shares. Now let's deal with fully diluted. Fully diluted is a combination of three things: issued stock, common and preferred stock, as if converted to common stock; issued options or warrants, which is similar to options; and usually options reserved in the stock option pool. In other words, it assumes that the entire option pool has been granted and that all of those options have been exercised. Investors usually think in terms of fully diluted capitalization because it better reflects their true ownership position. Preferred stock, as if converted to common stock. VCs ask and will get preferred shares almost always. They are a different class of share since they get special rights, typically a liquidation preference. When an exit is on the table, they have the right to convert into common shares, the same ones you have, or get the higher value of the liquidation preference. So as if converted assumes the preference shares convert to common. Warrants. They aren't really used much in startup land. They are a financial option an investor might use to get shares in a company, sort of like a convertible note, and you may see them at that investment stage. It's best to dig into these if this is a bridge you need to cross, because it's not likely. So don't waste your time now learning about them. Authorized share tips. It's a good idea to set up a large amount of authorized shares so you don't need to change this again in the future. I recommend 10 million when you issue shares. People also like the idea of owning 10,000 shares instead of 5, even if they're worth the same amount, which is weird, I know, but it's actually in the basis of the financial literature. Shares have a cost called the par value. Par value is the minimum price that a company can issue its shares. In the US, par value was created during the time of the Great Depression in order to ensure a share could not be sold under a certain price. Today, that concept is somewhat archaic, but it still plays an important role and should be thoughtfully considered when forming a startup company by filing the certificate of incorporation. Set this low when you incorporate. I typically recommend that a startup incorporation's common stock par value be set at 0.0001 and no higher than 0.0001 per share. Why? You need to be fully paid up. Let me tell you a story. I was raising for a startup once, and they set a dollar value per share. That's 1.0. So when the investors saw they were not fully paid up, they needed to do that before investment, which would have been quite a lot of money if they didn't fix it. So they spent a lot of money with their lawyers, changing that par value to a much smaller number. Since par value times by a lot of shares equals a lot of cash you don't have, it can become an issue. If you're in America again, it's also very important to set your par value low when you authorize many shares in Delaware, where most startups will do so, because this will help keep your franchise taxes low. There can be dramatic consequences, at least Delaware franchise tax bill wise, if you set your par value high and your authorized shares high. So chat to your lawyers, mention the points that we talked about together, and make sure you don't have any of these troubles and costs. They're real, and it's so easy to avoid.